Hey everybody, this is Mr. Storm, and this is the second video in my series on classroom management. In my first video, we talked about prevention strategies, ways to prevent issues in your classroom. So if you haven't watched that video, go back and watch that video. This is the second video in the series. In this video, I want to talk about how do we manage classroom behavior in the moment, right? Like right when things are going haywire, they're going the wrong way. So this video is going to cover the in-the-moment strategies. But first, I want to highlight this concept again. Your locus of control. What can you control as a person, right? Remember, you can only control three things. You can control what you do, what you say, and how you think, right? So again, this is about controlling your behavior and not controlling student behavior. We can influence students to behave the way we want them to, but we can't make them do anything, right? We can try, but we're going to fail, right? So our goal isn't to control their behavior. It's to control our own behavior to influence them to do the right thing, okay? So it's an important concept to understand. So step number one. So this is when, let's say, a kid is misbehaving in class, they're off task, they're having a conversation with their friend, they're playing video games on their Chromebook or whatever it is, right? They're just doing the thing you don't want them to do. The best way to stem that behavior is by using proximity, okay? Move through the classroom as you teach. Don't sit at your desk, okay? I know it's tempting. I get tempted to just go get work done myself, right? You have things to do. You have emails to answer and grades to update and all those things, right? I'm tempted to sit at my desk while the students are working. It's not a great idea, right? If you're moving through the classroom as you're teaching, or you're moving through the classroom as kids are working, it shows them that there's not a place they can hide in my room, right? Hide sounds bad, but what I'm saying is there's not a place where they can be, do whatever they want to do that I'm not going to notice, right? So I teach in a computer lab. All of my monitors are situated in a way where I can see every monitor in the room from basically most of the places I teach from. But I do walk around. Sometimes I'll see the backs of monitors or whatever. But that's okay because they know I'm coming back around in another couple seconds anyway, right? So I'm moving around the room while they are learning, while they're working on their content. If they know that you're there or they know that you're going to be there soon, they're less likely to misbehave, right? And kids naturally will just kind of find the place in the room that's farthest away from the teacher. I'll notice the kids that sit in the exact direct opposite corner of where my desk is, because they think that's a place where I can go sit and I'm away from the teacher. He's not going to notice when I'm trying to play Roblox or whatever. If you're moving around the room consistently, then there's no place that's farthest away from you, right? So kids are less likely to try to do things if they know, oh, I'm just going to have to keep closing this out every 30 seconds because he's going to be back around, right? Now, proximity is great because I don't have to yell across the room to stop behavior, right? If a kid's misbehaving, I can make my way over to that kid and I can, hey, it looks like you're not on the right website. Do you need help finding the place? Do you need help figuring out where you're supposed to be? I can help you, or he can help you. Your friend here can help you, right? I can redirect them quietly and personally one-on-one without having to include the whole class. Remember, if we start yelling out at kids in the middle of class, then we're putting a spotlight on the misbehavior and it's going to cause that fight or flight response in a student and they're going to want to, get back at you, right? Because again, we're putting them in a corner and they have to show their friends and their peers that they're not afraid to, mix it up with the teacher, right? So you're creating a confrontational situation if you're yelling at kids from across the room. But if you just walk up and, hey man, I'm pretty sure you're not in the right place. Can I help you? Do you need help getting logged in or Or I see you're not working on your worksheet. Are you having questions on some of these questions? I can help you. If you can't figure out how to do this, just let me know. I can help. You're trying to solve the problem, right? The kid's not a problem. The problem is that they're not paying attention, right? And so you're trying to solve that problem with the kid. Yeah, actively manage your classroom in physical space and in cyberspace, right? So again, a lot of my teaching involves computers, right? And so there are some kids that as soon as their fingers touch keyboard, they do all kinds of things that you don't want them to do. Some kids are just that way, right? So if you're actively managing your classroom in physical space, cyberspace, you're showing them that you're paying attention, they're less likely to misbehave. Now, there are there's software you can use to kind of see what all of your students are doing while they're on computers in your room. It's not foolproof, and I wouldn't rely on it as your full management plan for managing behavior in the classroom. Get up and move around. It's probably better. Now, the reason why proximity is so great, all the reasons that I've previously listed, but one of the best things is sometimes you don't even have to say anything and the behavior stops, right? If a kid is talking to his friend and they're not doing what you expect them to do, if they notice that you're standing there, and you don't have to be looking at them, just standing there looking somewhere else, but you're close to them, then they'll manage their own behavior. They'll correct themselves and start doing what you're supposed to do. And they might even think, hey, I kind of got away with it. But they didn't really. I mean, you noticed the behavior and you came over there and talked to them. So proximity is great because I don't have to actually confront a student sometimes. I just go stand over next to where they are, right? So proximity, that's the best way to handle situations that are, just quick little misbehaviors. Just show them that you're paying attention. So now what happens if our proximity didn't work, the kid's still doing things that you don't want them to do? You've redirected them. Hey, can you get to work on this assignment? And they're refusing to do so. Or, hey, you need to close out that tab. Go to where I want you to go. And they're just refusing to do it, right? Or if you have a kid who's just blatantly, while you're teaching, their outbursts and they won't stop, making fart noises or whatever it is, right? It's a behavior that the whole class sees happening and they won't stop after just quietly asking them to stop or going and standing by them, right? There's something else going on there. That's not common. And even our most challenging kids generally can be redirected just by quietly asking them or standing close to them. But sometimes those kids come in and they're keyed up. Something happened that morning, or they didn't get the medication that they normally take or whatever, right? Something's going on. Don't assume that the kid is doing it because they're trying to get in trouble, right? What I see a lot of teachers do at this point, they're like, I have a whole class full of kids I need to teach. There's this one kid who's just misbehaving and he won't stop and he's disrespecting everybody and he's disturbing everybody and I can't teach. So I just get frustrated, go to the office. Just go to the office, right? The problem is you've now given over your power to maintain order in your classroom to administration, right? You've made their job more difficult. You've given that kid an excuse to leave. They don't actually have to confront their behavior, because what happens is they'll go to the principal's office and the principal's first question is going to be, what did you do to get here? And their answer is going to be, nothing. I didn't do anything. The teacher just hates me. They're picking on me, right? Kids, like I said in my last video, kids don't have the time to think about their own behavior if they're being yelled at, right? So if I'm just, you don't belong here. You're not allowed here. Get out of my room. They're not going to stop and think about, what did I do, right? How did I cause this problem? No, they're thinking about, what did that teacher do? What did the adult just do? They yelled at me. They made me feel unsafe, right? So they're focusing on what you did and not what they did. So I find the easiest way to handle these situations, the most effective way, is just ask the kid, hey, can you just go out in the hallway for a second? I'll be out there in a minute. Just have them just go outside and discreetly. Don't, and you're not angry either, right? Just no emotion. Hey, can you just step out in the hallway for a second? I'll come talk to you. Don't yell at them across the room. Get out of my room right now, and I'm going to talk to you in a minute. Like, no, you're not angry, right? Ask them to go out in the hallway. Take a minute or two to redirect your kids to something that they can do on their own, right? Get them started on the assignment, finish whatever it is that you were teaching about. Give them some little activity, give them a think, pair, share activity, turn to your partner and talk to them for a minute about what we just discussed and, whatever. Get them engaged, get them doing something, and then step out in the hallway. And before you even walk out there, I guarantee they're going to be apologizing. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do it. I apologize. My mom, she yelled at me this morning. I'm angry. I'm not mad at you. I'm just, whatever. Some kids will be that way. Before you can get out there, they'll be apologizing. They'll be vomiting apologies, right? Some kids will just be defiant, right? They'll be angry at you that you sent them out of the room. When you go out there, they'll probably some kids might start yelling, or they'll keep that escalation up, right? That moment of calming down hasn't worked. It hasn't worked to calm them down. It just made them more angry. So when you go out there and they're just blah, 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 they might just start yelling. Don't match their vibe, right? Set the tone. Don't escalate with them. Okay. No, absolutely. I'm hearing everything you're saying. Man, I can see that you're angry, and I appreciate that. Do you need a minute to calm down? Do you need a minute to cool off before we go back in the room, right? Because what I need from you is I need you to not disrupt other students while I'm teaching. And I know you're not normally the kind of person who would do this, so I knew something had to be going on. So I just wanted to talk to you about it. Is there something I can do to help you so that we can move forward together in class and be productive today? Because I have some stuff to do, you have some stuff to do, and let's try to see how we can make it so that we can do those things together in a productive way, right? It's not me versus the student, right? It's me and the student versus the problem, which is the behavior, right? And so employ them to give you a solution to the problem, right? So it can just be that simple. But if you go out there and they're yelling at you and you start yelling back, you're just escalating to the point where eventually something's going to explode, right? Don't let it explode. Just stay calm. Hey, man, yeah, you're angry. I can see that. Do you need to chill for a minute and calm down? And we can talk in a minute. That's totally fine too. Sometimes kids just need to calm down, right? But part of that is building the relationship, knowing who this kid is, knowing what normally triggers them, that kind of thing. Part of it is just being incredibly kind and giving them the benefit of the doubt. I don't ever accuse kids of doing anything, ever, unless it's something that's incredibly obvious, right? So I don't ever, you just did this and that was inappropriate because, right? I ask, hey, what's going on? Why did you react that way? Or what is keeping you from being able to pay attention to what I'm doing, right? It puts the onus on you, and it puts the maybe there's something going on in the classroom that I don't know about, right? If you accuse a kid, you're being super disrespectful and you're talking over top of me and it makes my job so hard and I just want to quit and I hate it. They just feel attacked. There might have been something else happening, right? It might have been the kid next to them was bothering them and they were trying to get them to stop. And you only saw that kid, hey, stop, cut it out. And that's what disrupted the class. And so when you send them out in the hallway, they think I'm in trouble and I didn't even do anything. And now I'm mad. And now, right? No, just, hey, what's going on? What happened? And then they'll tell you, oh, he was talking to them and he says something. And then, oh, okay. Yeah, no, good. I'm glad we had this conversation. I wanted to figure out what was happening because I noticed that, you're not the kind of person that would just blurt out things in the middle of class. So I knew something was off. So I'm glad we talked about it. Thank you for letting me know. Again, we're solving the problem, not the symptom. Behavior is a symptom. We're curing the disease, not the symptom, right? Okay, so those hallway conversations are really effective. And again, this is in private. You're doing it in a way that no one else can hear your conversation. None of the students, at least, can hear your conversation. And you're it's a fact-finding mission. How can I solve this problem? How can we work to solve this problem so that we can move on? Okay? That's not always going to work. So this should be incredibly rare. The final step, the last thing, the last tool in your tool bag should be an office referral. This is only for when you have something like a safe school violation. The kid has a knife or a gun, or, obviously if it's my lights just turned off. Hello. All right. There we go. I have automatic lights in my room, and they just turned off when I said a kid has a gun. That was weird. That was creepy. All right. We're going to regroup and move on. So safe school violations. There's a knife in the kid's bag, or gun is a more serious thing. If you see a kid with a gun, obviously call law enforcement or whoever is your law enforcement representative on campus. Lock down the school, that kind of thing. Let's say a kid is vaping in class, right? I teach high school and junior high. This is a thing that happens, right? A kid has a vape. Or they are, doing something that's sexually inappropriate or whatever, right? Safe school violations. Those kinds of things they need to go to the office for, right? Because schools have to be absolutely safe. There's no room for unsafe behavior. But it's not appropriate to send a kid to the office because they're disruptive, or if they talk back to you, or if they just refuse to do work, right? So I like to give the example. I'm going to use words that aren't. I'm going to use some swear words. I'm just letting you guys know that right now. Hopefully we're all adults here. There's a difference between you using the proximity, having the one-on-one conversation. You talk to a kid, hey, it looks like you're struggling with question 3. Can I help you? Or maybe can you work on whatever? And the kid goes, fuck. Under their breath, they're frustrated, right? Yeah, your school might have a zero tolerance policy for the F word. And it may feel disrespectful in the moment. Like, that kid just swore at me, right? That doesn't need an office referral. You don't need to send a kid into the office because they were just momentarily frustrated. You might want to have a conversation with them out in the hallway about, hey man, did I do something to make you angry? I'm sorry. I believe I don't deserve to be spoken to like that. I know I'm sorry. I'm just frustrated. Like, that's a moment for you to build a relationship with the kid. Set your boundaries, set your expectations. The difference between that and I go and ask a kid, hey, can you work on the worksheet or whatever? I try to redirect, and they jump up and start yelling, fuck you, man. Get the fuck out of my face. Like, then it's not safe, right? If a big emotional outburst like that, even then, if I have a good relationship with that kid, I might try to de-escalate, put them out in the hallway, and then talk to them in a minute. But if it's, if you're a small teacher and they're a big high school student and they're angry and they're lashing out and it's getting violent, then it would be an office referral, right? So there's a difference. Right? You got to figure out what's going on in this situation. If you're sending a kid out of your classroom because they're annoying you, or it makes your job slightly more difficult to deal with in the moment, that's not appropriate. But if a kid is making your classroom environment unsafe, then office referrals are acceptable at that point. Now remember, every time you send a kid out of your room to go get dealt with by another adult, You're giving up your authority to manage your own classroom, right? So I try to handle things at the lowest level possible, right? That's why proximity is the first thing. If I can handle it there, then there's no reason to move on, right? If that doesn't work, let's go talk in the hallway and figure out how we can solve the problem. If that doesn't work, then maybe even then, if I have that hallway conversation and a kid still comes back into the class and he's still being disruptive, at that point, I might, send an email home, call the parents. Hey, I'm just letting you know, normally we don't have this issue, but today, your son, he was perfectly fine for a little while, and then something happened and we talked about it and he kept doing it. And I'm just trying to make sure that there's not something I'm doing that I should fix, or did he have a rough day or whatever, right? Even that, I would still call the parents, all that stuff. Office referrals should be only for continued and sustained behavior that is consistently disrupting your class, or for safe school violations, right? So be very careful with office referrals. I look through our system that we use at the school where I teach. We use a system for recording misbehavior. And I looked to see when the last time I actually sent a kid to the office, and it was 5 years ago. So it should be rare. It should be rare, right? A lot of these issues can be handled by building a relationship, knowing what works for dealing with that student's behavior, but also being consistent, being kind, being there, right? The proximity is important. Being calm, right? Don't match their tone. Don't escalate to the point where we're screaming at each other and it's getting worse every time we open our mouths. Give kids the benefit of the doubt. Don't accuse them of things if you don't know what happened. On that point, one of the reasons why I don't accuse is because I may be wrong. And it's really hard to pedal back when you're angry, you're yelling at a kid, you just did this, you did that. And they go, well, actually, no, I didn't say it. It was the kid behind me and you didn't see. It's really hard to go, oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I didn't realize. Some of these things have a momentum of their own, and it's really hard to pull yourself back whenever you're, if you're just asking, hey, what was going on over there? And the kid tells you, you're already there. You're already at the helpful level, right? You're not accusing anything, so you don't need to pull yourself back, right? So, okay. One more thing I want to touch on is respect. This is a word that we use often in our relationships with our spouses, our girlfriends, boyfriends, with our kids, with our students. We use this word respect often. And I'm actually just going to go full camera here. Let me just make myself giant for this, right? So I can speak directly into the camera. So we use this word respect, but we rarely ever define it. That's not helpful, right? If my definition of respect is different from yours, then we may behave in ways that don't align properly, right? So for example, some people see respect as as based on the role that you play in that situation, right? So the rules for how to treat me might be different than the rules for how to treat you because we're at different levels of the hierarchy, right? So for example, you see this a lot with teachers and students, right? I'm the teacher, so I deserve to be treated in a specific way. You're the student, so I can treat you differently than how I expect you to treat me, right? So I can yell and scream and point the finger and make jokes and whatever, all those things, because I'm the position of authority. But if you give me some of that in return, you've now disrespected me, and now we have an issue, right? So a lot of authoritarian people, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but a lot of those type A personalities, those people who are really sensitive about not being disrespected in a position of authority, they feel that that's how respect means. That's what respect means. Another definition of respect, and this is one that kids often use, is equal treatment for everyone, no matter what the role, right? And so this means that, like, no matter who you are, we treat each other the same way, right? I have the same rules for how to treat you as I have for how to treat somebody else. Now, that's not realistic in practice, right? Because there are every situation's different. But also attached to this is this idea that since we're all the same and we all follow the same rules, if you disrespect me, then I then have the permission to disrespect you, right? And so you can see how those two definitions of respect would clash. If the teacher's like, you have to respect me always 100%, and if you talk back to me even though I'm being rude, you're disrespecting. And the kid is thinking, respect is not about the role you play. It's just everyone deserves the same kind of treatment. But as soon as you mistreat me, I can mistreat you back, and it's all fair game, right? You started it, and so now you can see how those would clash, right? So I don't like either of those definitions of respect. For me, the definition is a bit more complex, but it's actually kind of simple. Basically, I talk about this with my students. My definition of respect is that you understand that you are a person who exists in a world with other people, right? That you are free to behave and say whatever you want, behave in any way you want, say whatever you want. But that your actions and the things you say will affect the people around you, right? You're not living on an island by yourself, right? You're not the only thing that exists, right? There are other people and other things around you. So if you are acting in a way that makes other people's lives worse in any way, then you're being disrespectful, right? Your goal should be for your words and your actions to improve the lives of the people around you, to make it easier for those people to live, right? Or at the very least, not make it more difficult, right? So sometimes it's hard to do that, right? Sometimes your own personal things are getting in the way of you being respectful of everybody else, right? But your goal should be every day, I have a tally. I've made someone's day better. I've made someone's day worse. I've made someone's day better. I made someone's day worse. Your tally should be in the positive column by the end of the day, right? You should offset the actions that affected people with negatively with actions that affected people positively. Sometimes it's the same person. Sometimes it's the same action almost, right? If I said something that hurt your feelings, then I need to balance those scales and come back to you and say, you know what? I apologize. I really shouldn't have said that. I don't know why I said it. It was just a momentary, like I was just being weak in the moment, and I was angry, and I apologize. I'm really sorry. I did not mean to say that. I don't think that way about you. That's still respectful, even though you did the thing that was mean in the first place. If it was truly an accident, don't go around just being a jerk and then apologizing and then I win. You know what I mean? But just understand that your behavior, the things you say, the things you do, they affect people around you. And if you focus on trying to make that effect a positive one as opposed to a negative one, then in my mind, that's respect, right? I don't know. There are a lot of definitions out there, but that's the one that I kind of try to think about when I think about respect. Some people call it the golden rule. I don't really like that because having others treat you the way you want to be treated, sometimes people are fine with being treated in a way that I wouldn't want to be treated, right? But just try to be a positive influence on the people around you. Try to make everyone else's day better as opposed to worse. That might be a helpful definition for respect, or not. Who knows? Anyway, We've talked a lot about specific strategies that you can use in your class. I'm Mr. Storm. Please let me know if you find these videos helpful, if you want me to go into if you want me to go deeper on, there goes my light again. If you want me to go deeper on other subjects, please just let me know. And I'd be more than happy to throw a video together. Hopefully this helps you to cut down on some misbehaviors in your class, and hopefully it keeps you from wanting to quit your job, because we need you, because you're awesome. And anyone who's willing to be in a classroom with 30 plus students every day and doesn't want to quit every year, we need you there. So you're doing great. I love you. Your kids love you. Let's see if we can have a more productive school year. All right. See you later.